Can I tell you my personal favorite best practice of
I
all
would love
time?
to hear.
Okay. This is free today only, folks.
Okay.
Here with Larry. Okay. So oftentimes communities are getting leads from a third party source. So a place for mom, caring.com, a local advisor service, etc. So in that new lead that comes in, I understand that we still need to make a phone call immediately, right? That speed to lead is important. But how often are we typically met with their voicemail? Like 90% of the time.
Sure.
And it's likely because, especially if coming from a third party lead source, they're getting bombarded by 5, 6, 7, 12 other communities, right?
Sure.
And so my best practice was to say in my voicemail that I inevitably had to leave, hey, Larry, I know you're probably getting bombarded by a lot of folks reaching out right now. And I just wanted to let you know that when you get an opportunity and things settle down, there is an email in your inbox with a quick introduction video from me about myself and our community and the resources that I can provide to you along this journey. Now, when you get a chance and you have an opportunity to check this out and schedule some time to tour, the link to do so is right here.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Welcome to The Move In, a senior living marketing podcast from Unlock Health, a full-service marketing partner for the aging services industry. Join us for candid conversations exploring the latest marketing strategies with the senior living community leaders and innovative solution partners who are moving our industry forward. Together, we'll build a community to build better communities. What if one 45-second video could be the difference between a no-show and a move-in? Hello, I'm Larry Williams, and welcome to The Move In Senior Living Marketing, powered by Unlock Health. Because video today isn't just about technology, it's about trust. A simple, personal video message can calm nerves, build connection, and show families what to expect before they ever step through your front door. In today's episode, I'm joined by Christie Freeze from Heart Legacy. And if you've ever seen her on LinkedIn, you already know she's incredible when it comes to video and authenticity in senior living. We talk about how video can completely shift the perception of senior living and become a tool that supports your teams, your prospects, and your culture. Here's what we cover: the power of personalized video and how just a few seconds on camera can fast-track trust by creating psychological proximity. A proven video cadence, including responses, pre-tour reminders, and post-tour follow-ups that reduce no-shows up to 60%, and how to overcome fear and build confidence on camera, even if you never like the way you look or sound in a video. If you've ever wondered how to humanize your sales process and stand out in a crowded inbox, this one's for you. Let's get into it. All right, we are back on The Move In Senior Living Marketing. I have my good friend Christie Freeze with me today, and it's so funny. Like, we started this conversation, I'm like, oh yeah, we need to hit record. That's the problem. We just start chatting, and so
there's value in just recording before it even gets started. Sometimes
I've thought about that before, because there's a lot of notes that I'm like, oh man, we should have said this in the actual podcast. But thank you so much for joining me today. Christy is the industry principal, and I love that title, by the way, industry principal at Heart Legacy. And so if you're on LinkedIn, there's a good chance you found Christy's videos. And I'm excited to speak about all things video with you today, Christy, because there's a lot I need to learn from you. Because before we get into Heart Legacy, one thing that I'm just really blown away with is how comfortable you are when it comes to video. And I want to learn from you today. So first, before we get into anything else, let's talk about Heart Legacy. What is Heart Legacy, and what's the value you bring to the senior living space?
Incredible. Okay, so Heart Legacy is actually home to sales mail, which is typically what people think of when they think of me showing up on LinkedIn. And that is the, in my opinion, #1 video tool for senior living sales teams, marketing teams, executive directors, operations. The world is our oyster, but for those folks to build trust and rapport and connection with their prospects, referral partners, their team members, anyone that really matters to them, those are the people that we work with.
That's awesome. Love that. And let's talk about video specifically. And before we jumped into this conversation, you and I were chatting about YouTube. And so I think it just shows, like, in all things, the power of video these days, whether it's YouTube, short form videos, and just connecting person to person. And so how, why is video messages, and is that a good way of saying it, is video messages? what's the power behind that when it comes to marketing and then sales and senior living specifically?
Okay, I actually have a quote that I think is going to answer this for us
I love
really
quotes.
simply. So this quote is one of my absolute favorites, and it comes from the book Rehumanize Your Business. So 12 out of 10, check that out. But the quote is that video creates psychological proximity in the absence of physical proximity.
Wow. I like that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Well
what does
done.
that mean, right? That's how we build trust. That's
Mhm.
how we can build connection and trust with our prospects before they even walk in our door. And I say that quote in so many of my presentations and trainings and sessions because I know that sales teams do an incredible job when a family is on site at their community ready to take a tour. I don't doubt that. I just know that they could do that same exact thing quicker by communicating via video before they even get a chance to meet that prospect in person.
Yeah, for sure. Now, okay, then let's talk about that in that sales journey. You're connecting with a potential resident early on. At what point is a video needed? Is it right out of the gate? Is
Oh,
that
it's my
that
favorite.
introduction? What point do you want to like pull in the video element?
Okay, can I tell you my personal favorite best practice of
I
all
would
time?
love to hear.
Okay, this is free today only, folks.
Okay.
Here with Larry. Okay, so oftentimes communities are getting leads from a third-party source. So a place for mom, caring.com, a local advisor service, etc. So in that new lead that comes in, I understand that we still need to make a phone call immediately, right? That speed to lead is important. But how often are we typically met with their voicemail? Like 90% of the time.
Sure.
And it's likely because, especially if coming from a third party lead source, they're getting bombarded by 5, 6, 7, 12 other communities, right?
Sure.
And so my best practice was to say in my voicemail that I inevitably had to leave, hey, Larry, I know you're probably getting bombarded by a lot of folks reaching out right now. And I just wanted to let you know that when you get an opportunity and things settle down, there is an email in your inbox with a quick introduction video from me about myself and our community and the resources that I can provide to you along this journey. Now, when you get a chance and you have an opportunity to check this out and schedule some time to tour, the link to do so is right here. Now, we're not done. Because if I just told you, Larry, on the phone and the voicemail that I'm going to do that, I need to actually do that thing.
For 100%.
So I will have already created, in most cases, an evergreen inquiry response video. It says, hi, I'm Christy from ABC Community. Looking forward to meeting you, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
And I will have that locked and loaded, saved in a favorites, ready to put into my email follow-up that I just said I was going to do.
Great advice.
It's my favorite. It works every time.
That's great. And what is so you leave that video.
Okay, yeah.
What do you want to say in the video?
Okay, I actually have
I knew there's going to be follow-up to this one.
Yes, I actually have a video script and a little example that I'm happy to share. We can drop it in a link down below, but
Okay.
it's just a resource. And so what you would say in the video is the same exact thing that you would say in the email that you would send.
Okay.
Because 95% of the message is retained when consumed via video versus 10% in the plain text email that you're sending. Hey, thanks for your inquiry. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Love that. That's great. So let me ask you this: recording videos. It's through sales mail. Is that on a desktop application? Is it through your phone?
It's wherever your heart desires.
Love that. That is great. Now here's another question: is how does someone have that script? Do they need to have it on their computer locked and loaded so they can just
don't need
record?
it.
Okay.
Okay.
They don't need it.
They don't need it. So my favorite piece of advice when it comes to this is the video voicemail cadence framework. So you've left a voicemail, yes?
Mhm. Yes, I have. Okay. Yes.
Hey, this is Larry. It was great to meet you today. I actually had 2 more questions for you. If you could just give me a quick call when you get a chance, I would appreciate it. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Yeah.
Just say the same thing.
Just say the exact same thing.
Same thing. Same thing that you would
Nice.
type out in your email. The same thing you would say to them in person. The message is not changing. The modality is changing in which we're delivering it. The medium is changing, not the message.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's my question to you, and you're really good at this, which is, having that vibe, that persona, that authenticity. It's not just sales. It's hey, I'm Christy. I'm being the best Christy, I can be, and that comes through in the video.
I'm
How
trying.
how do you get people to relax and to be that person? And I'll be honest with you, straight up, I struggle with that. I get tense. I think that imposter syndrome comes out. I always tell everybody when it comes to like present, if it's a conversation, I'm all about it. One to one, I'm presenting something to you, I struggle. And so, what's your advice to me and everyone else who struggles with that? I say that imposter syndrome when it comes to those video, like recording those videos.
Yeah, camera confidence is really what
Camera
I refer
confidence.
to this as. So let's talk about it. There's a few components to it. It's not just one simple answer, for sure not. So one of the things that I like to share with teams, and this will apply to you, I think, and I believe it will land regardless of your role or industry, etc. But for senior living specifically, we're asking our prospects to do something really scary to them, right? We're asking them
Yeah,
to come into a building where they probably have a preconceived notion that something is like way different than it actually is.
sure.
They are probably fearful of what to expect. They are about to have to potentially leave their home of 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And we're asking for, like, in my opinion, the deepest level of vulnerability from a person in that initial sales process.
Yeah,
And what is required of us to get to that level of vulnerability is to just be a little bit vulnerable and step outside of our comfort zone for their 30 to 45-second videos. And we look and sound the same as we do when our prospects or our friends or whoever it is that we're meeting eventually see us in person.
yeah,
So more often than not, I'll ask on a training before anything else, if somebody were to call you right now and say, I want to come take a tour of your community, and you had availability, what would you say to them? And they're like, duh, obviously.
yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, well, obviously you look and sound the same right here in this moment that you do when your prospects come in. And so we have, as humans, this is just human stuff, friends. There's nothing wrong with you. I personally would probably cry if I listened back and watched back any of the videos that are going out onto the interwebs. Like, my rule of thumb, this is another really good one. If you like what you said when you said it, save it.
yeah,
So if I'm recording a video and I'm saying, hey, Larry, I'm looking forward to connecting with you, blah, 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 and I mess up, I'll stop it and I'll re-record it.
Mm.
If I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted to say, approve, I just send it on.
sure.
Because the person receiving it, so many different things are happening than what we think is happening. What we think is happening is that they're like, I don't know Larry's hair that day and what shirt he was wearing, and like all of these things that we think.
Sure.
They're not
Absolutely.
happening. What's really happening, especially in senior living, is prospects are like, wow, that's what's going to happen when I arrive at the community to tour. That's
Yeah.
what the next step looks like. These are the resources available to me. This is what this journey might look like. And they're feeling seen and heard and connection and trust.
Yeah.
That's what's actually happening.
Just having that familiar face.
That's
Just
it.
just having that face that says, we got you.
The
And
amount
we're here
of
for you.
people, Larry, that have walked in. So I worked in a community for almost, not in the same one, but in senior living communities for almost a decade. And the amount of people that would walk in after getting an introduction video from me or a pre-tour reminder, that you could literally see their shoulders drop, that now they're not walking into somewhere that they don't know anybody. They're walking into somewhere where they know me.
I think about when my kids started school. This might be a silly analogy, but they walked into a class very hesitant, shy, looking around, but they saw somebody new and it changed everything. Then they felt like as though they were a part of it.
Yeah.
And it just calmed nerves and created a different type of confidence. And when it's all said and done, I know that's what we're looking to do. Now, let me ask you this, transitioning away from that first video, what's the sequence after? Do you have any advice there? I feel like you're full of advice. It's Friday. I think you're just offering advice for free right now.
Great.
What because there is a series of steps in
I will
a
tell you-
perfect world. look, I work for an agency. We start with that lead generation. We're taking you through that steps, and we're really looking now to convert. That there's an introductory message. Tell us more about as we go through that sales process. I'd love to get that Christie Freeze knowledge at this point.
I will tell you my preferred lineup, and this can be created however you desire, what your own personal operators cadence expectations are, etc. But I personally believe, if nothing else is happening, inquiry response video. We just talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that's next is a pre-tour reminder. So again, I have an example. I'm happy to share it with anyone who wants it of this. That's just like, hey, this is where you park. This is what to expect. I'm going to be there at the welcome sign. This is the entrance, yada, yada, yada. But also for those of you that love a little bit of stats and some data, those videos reduce no-shows by up to 60%.
Well, I'm sure there's an accountability side. Okay, well,
You
Christy left it.
And I was like, see you soon. And you were like,
I gotta show up now. Like they're expecting me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Larry, we're going to keep going through this sequence here in a second, but I would argue that why do you think that people don't show up to their tour?
I'm curious.
Here, I think they're scared. I think they're overwhelmed. I think that they are unsure of what to expect. The generation that we are still working with, although it is evolving and changing, the generation in their mind thinks that this is like a long, dark, scary hallway where people are screaming for help.
Yeah.
And it's just not. And so for them to like see that before they actually step in the doors, they're like, oh, well, I thought it was this and it's actually this, and that person's waiting for me. So yeah, I'll go. So
let me ask you this on that topic. The videos I've seen with you, you typically have a sign of some sort, have a message, a very warming message. So do people also use see, there it is. Do people use these videos to like kind of give tours there? Like, oh, we're going to walk down this, like almost prep that side of it too. So like you said, it's not just this unknown, but there's, again, it's not just familiarity when it comes to the faces, but the location, the steps and everything like that.
One of the number one use cases is for virtual tours. And a lot of folks, I did this a lot as well, but a lot of folks will use sales mail to do like perhaps a networking event or an actual event is happening at their community. And the parking situations may be a little wonky. They'll just take their phone out there. So you can do sales mail on your mobile app, on your desktop, literally wherever your heart desires. We can talk more about that if we would like, but they can show exactly where to go and what to do and how it's all going to be laid out. And therefore, people are going to show up. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So question on that. Sorry, I feel like I'm full of questions now.
It's okay.
Because you and I have, hung out at conferences. We see each other on the exhibit show floor and everything. And, it's funny. You see, the same group of people throughout the year at different locations, but you and I have never really unpacked this. So I feel like now I'm just asking a lot of questions. I appreciate this.
I'm so here for it.
So you speak with someone, speak with a group, and there might be some who are like, yeah, I'm good with this. There's going to be those who are like, I'm just not good on video. And you're like, don't worry, I got this training. I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just don't want to be on video.
They don't
I'm sure you have. Okay.
They don't have to be. So this is perfectly timed with the virtual tours. So that is like number one use case. It feels like for sales mail as of late, a lot of people are doing this inquiry, pre-tour, post-tour, the process. But virtual tours are so helpful for out-of-state children, people who maybe just can't come in quite yet, to your point, want to see something before they come in. And they can then create that virtual tour without having them be in it. Now, I still think that you should talk a little.
Sure.
I think you should kind of, lay out what's happening and where you're going. And if you're feeling really super brave, you could just be on the camera for the very first second saying, hey, it's Larry. I'm going to show you around this apartment real quick, and then turn it.
Yeah. You don't have to be an influencer. You just have to, like you said, just connect a face with a name. And there's so much power in connecting people, faces with the process.
And I would argue that the people that we're sending these to don't want them to be perfect.
There's something nice about non-perfection of just being yourself.
No, I had a sales mail user recently reach out to me and say that she took a virtual tour and she was talking and it was of her and back and forth. And she tripped in their courtyard over like a water fountain or something. And she still sent it and she got more engagement and more comments and people being like, that's hilarious. Thank you for still sending that.
Isn't it funny that when we're not professional, that tends to be when we connect the
Yeah.
most. And we were in a call earlier this week, my team, and it was 5:30 or 6 o'clock Eastern time, and we were trying to wrap things up, and someone had a baby on their lap. They're like, "I am so sorry." I'm like, "No, this is the best part of this meeting,"
Yeah.
and just showing up as people, like you
That's
said,
it.
tripping, and sometimes just acknowledging our flaws. And I think it's a very human element. Like I said, I struggle with any type of presentation and pitches when it's not a communal conversation, when it's just directly, directed, like I'd say, I'm trying to tell you this. It does feel like there's a spotlight on you, but I love
Yeah.
what you're saying, which is just be yourself.
Just be yourself and also like remember who it's for. Like
Yeah.
for your example just now, like I've listened to you speak and present and I always learn something and I always gain something valuable from it. And so I think like something that helps me is I'm really being more mindful and aware of invitations. And so what I mean by that is more of like an energetic invitation.
Hmm.
So like if I'm invited in to have this conversation with you, I can release a lot of the pressure and perfectionism of like what to say.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It
Like,
does. And I wish we had this conversation earlier this week. I needed some of that advice.
ah! But yeah, I think it's also a lot about self-trust, which
Yeah.
is something I also would love to nerd out on at some point. But like what we're doing by showing up, even when we're scared, of video, of presenting, of speaking publicly, of honestly, I remember when I first started in senior living, I was 21. I
Wow.
was like a little baby infant.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago, right?
That was approximately almost 14 years ago. So I remember being scared every time a tour would walk in and every single time something, unexpected that I didn't know how to potentially navigate would
Mhm.
appear.
Sure.
And the more you show up and just learn, we're all just learning. No one's
That's it.
getting it right.
Yeah.
Like it's not,
And I would say this, if you're going to show up in a field that you can be yourself and just be your best version of yourself and be accepted in that, it's this field, it's this
yeah,
space. And because we're all in this for the same reason. And I've never been part of a group who's willing to help others along the journey.
yeah. And it's
It's
interesting. It's interesting to hear you say that because as you did, I literally like my brain saw this like whole trickle down effect of like I don't know. It's interesting, like when I tell people what I do for work, and I
yeah.
try to explain the sales mail heart legacy whole ordeal. And I say, ultimately, I was in senior living and loved connecting with prospects and families and building that connection with them.
Hmm.
But now, in the work that I do here, I get to connect thousands of sales directors to families who they don't have to do anything, they get to rewrite the perception of what senior living is
Yeah.
through video. Like, this is for me, I'm going to make a way greater impact doing this. And then now the ripple effect of that, right, is that as a society and as a culture, we're going to start shifting how we view senior living simply because people feel a little bit braver, hopefully, to just step out of their comfort zone for a little bit. And the amount of people that have come to me, Larry, and been like, I said I was never doing that. And when we got it, I said, I'm not recording. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
What happens is people see their sister communities starting to get more leads and more tours and more
Sure.
move-ins. And then they're like, how are you doing that? It's directly linked in their CRM to sales mail by Heart Legacy. And they're like, all right.
Yeah, and it goes. I always take notes during these conversations, and I've written a lot of notes, through this conversation. But one thing I just jotted down was changing the narrative. So there's the bigger picture here, which is
Yes.
changing the narrative of senior living, this is the conversation we all have, and it's a bigger picture. And I think when people see a bigger need, it goes beyond even this cell and thinking about, look, hey, let's connect on a human level. Hey, let me show you, you're going to park here, you're going to walk through here. Oh, you'll like this. That changes the narrative right there.
Yep.
And I always go back to a quote. I'm telling you, I've said this quote so many times, and I apologize to all listeners who have heard me say this quote many times. But my whole mindset changed really when it came to senior living when we hosted a lunch at Smash 2 years ago, and Brad Bushby said, "You know, we don't compete against one another; we compete against people aging in isolation."
Yes.
And so I think about that in these videos where it's like it's not just about the prospect, it's about someone seeing connection, it's someone seeing community, it's someone seeing home. It's not just about there's so many emotional steps through this process that to have a warming face, someone who cares, someone, you know, just a presence there, that has to make all the difference in the
A
world.
trusted guide, a resource, someone that you know is going to have some answers. And if they don't, be able to get you to them.
Yeah.
I love video and I love senior living. But the thing that I might care about most of all is just shifting the perception of what people think of when they think of senior living. I've been in senior living for almost 14 years. And still to this day, when I say that and I tell people what I do or that I've wrote the roadmap for elder care, they're like, oh, for like nursing homes? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
those do still exist and that is an offering, but like it's not Home Alone or Long Dark Scary Hallway. There's like 1,000 options in between.
Yes.
And it is
Yeah.
our job not to sell them anything. It is our job to guide them and to be a good resource and to make
Mhm.
sure that they are the most informed decision makers that they can possibly be. And
Yeah.
if we do that and we do that really well, what you're saying with video will also ripple effect into happening. Imagine if you were super against all of this for your loved one and you got an email with a video in it that said, hey, I'm Christy. I know that this is a really daunting, heavy, sometimes emotional process and discussion. I just want you to know that I get that. And I am just simply here to be a guide and a resource for you.
Yeah.
If that's something that you need and are interested in, I'm here for you. And even if that person literally never talks to you or calls you ever again, if they viewed your video, which you'll be able to see in your analytics, you will then have at least shifted the perception of one person.
Yeah.
And then,
Like you said, it really, maybe it's that shifted that perception or opened their eyes. And I think about something someone told me at one point, which is when you think about sales, people think it's trying to get someone to take an action. It's really not. It's really more about getting someone to maybe open their mind,
yeah,
or maybe change their perception when it's all said and done. You're not trying to twist somebody's arm. It's just changing a perception.
Yeah.
And so just having that awareness and understanding those fears through that journey and how having that human element makes a big difference. And I also say, and, you know, love to get your insight on this as well, which is when it comes to sales, people, you know, every conversation I have, it includes, you know, AI, technology. There's a human element. I keep saying the future is human. You know, there's that technology layer, but you cannot, replicate a human connection, which is what we all want. It's one thing if you're going to buy something online. You know, I bought a new suit for the Senior Living Executive Conference. You know, and I bought that online, right? Even we can buy a car online.
Yeah.
Senior living, there's a different level of vulnerability, trust, and connection. That is a human element. And I can't get away from that in this video process to connect people with people to continue to connect them with more people, you know, and I'd love to get your feedback on like how important that is in terms of just showing up as a person in a world of technology.
Yes. I think that, and I see it every now and again. I kind of just like stay in my own tunnel vision lane a little bit when it comes to, I'm always going to be on the personalized conversational video messaging train. If you find out that there is an AI version of me creating videos on my behalf, I need you to tell me immediately, because that is something that I think people have considered, dabbled with, want. They think they want it. No, absolutely not. I am like, you know, this is just like how I talk and I'm very expressive. And so it's like, I can't imagine if somebody who knew me, or worse yet, didn't know me, thought that that was who I was showing up to be. And so I think that we need to really just ditch the idea of the perfectionism. That just needs to go in general. Like that's never happening for any of us. not in this life or the next. And so let that go. But how you show up for your prospects when they are in front of you for a tour, how you show up for your prospects when you're on the phone with them, guiding them through a 45-minute to an hour conversation. Literally nothing is changing. Nothing's changing. And we are now in a time where we have spent the last 5 years being on Zoom, being on our phones, being on FaceTime or Marco Polo or Snapchat or whatever it is. Like, we've seen what we look like on video. We've heard what we sound like. None of us like it. But don't you feel so much more connected to people that you see at conferences that you're like, I was just at a conference 2 weeks ago and a random lady in the elevator said, hey, I think I've seen you on LinkedIn. And I was like, excellent.
It makes you feel special.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say this is even so you and I spoke about recording this podcast, and then there's emails, for me, I feel like I drown in Slack at times, and then all the emails and the text messages and the LinkedIn messages, but you send a LinkedIn message with a video with it, right? I was like, it's Christy, we need to connect. And so how it does cut through the clutter. Yeah. Instead of another message that we feel like we need to respond to. So I think that's, I love that feedback you just provided there.
Yeah. Thank you for loving that, because leveraging video in LinkedIn messages is one of my favorite things to do, because we just see it sometimes more than we see our email. Yeah. I did want to just real quick button up inquiry, pre-tour, post-tour.
I completely derailed you from your
did not.
Steps there. So yes,
we needed to unpack what we were unpacking. We did all of the things. But I have been talking a lot about evergreen and then personalized. Evergreen are those videos though that are like general stock. Hey, I'm Christy from the community, not hey, Larry. And so those can be evergreen. But the last thing I really want to say on this with the cadence is the post tour must be personalized. It must be. You cannot have an evergreen generalized video. You can, and I understand if like you're in a pinch and you can't, but these take 45 seconds to make.
Sure.
And so to be able to say, hey, Larry, thank you for touring today. This, and this were important to you. And we are so grateful that we can meet those needs here. Like something that actually reflects that you were listening.
Yeah, for sure. That's the icing on the cake right there.
Yes. So those are like the main places that I think every single prospect should get a video. In the same vein of shifting the perception, I love to ask for reviews via a sales mail and then give them the Google link to do that.
That's a good idea. You get into reputation management. I didn't even think about that.
Yes. And just going that a subtle little extra layer, asking for the review is super powerful, but why do we want it from them? And why do they care to give it? And if you ask them and you tell them that it's so that others will get to see what this journey and this experience looked like. And if they had a good experience, it will help others not feel so scared or overwhelmed. Yeah, sure. They're going to want to leave you a review and actually do it.
Yeah.
So that's just a subtle little addition to the review request to like actually get them to want to do it.
So you're full of these actionable takeaways. A lot of good ideas today. Thank you so much for that. All right. Before I leave you alone and we start packing up, getting ready to go to Tampa for Select. Tell me about the data in terms of what you can pull from these, the videos, the messages and everything, because yes, it's human element, but we still having that data to know what's working, what's not working, who's opening the emails. Are they actually watching the video? Stuff like that. Give me a little bit more insight on that if you don't mind.
Yes. So you can see all of that within your sales mail dashboard at any time, all the things that you just listed. So opens, views, shared, call to action, click, any comments that were left, and any emoji reactions. So you can see all of that in the dashboard. You also get push notifications. So like
nice.
While we were sitting here, I got 4 that a video that I have that's an evergreen is being viewed. So you see all of that data within your dashboard. We are also integrated with all the CRMs and all the platforms. So it's super easy to send a sales mail out of wherever you're normally sending from your CRM, from Outlook, text, carrier pigeon, whatever you desire. That one's not trackable yet.
The carrier pigeon?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, I'm working on it. But then you're also going to be able to see where those views are coming from. So the really special thing about sales mail is that the deliverability is extremely high for two reasons. The first reason is it's coming from your email address or your CRM or your phone for texting, not a third party. So it's truly coming from your email address, not a third party mailing address. The other component of it is that you're going to see the tracking of who is viewing it. And if you want to do one-to-one or one-to-many, you can clone and share and see every single person that you sent it to viewing, clicking the call to action. I try to teach teams that if you've put the call to action to say, schedule a tour today, and you, Larry, as the prospect, clicked that link, but you don't actually schedule your tour, I feel way better and more confident calling you to follow up saying, hey, Larry, it looks like you were trying to get some time to tour our community. Is that something that I can help you with? I actually have a reason to follow up with you. So all of the data lives within there. I just pulled some stats earlier that a group saw a 28% increase in inquiry to tour and 32% in tour to move in.
Wow.
It's an increase, right? So whatever your current inquiry to tour and tour to move in are, like seeing an increase in those when video is added to that process. So I think that's really powerful.
Very powerful. And it's just, there's so much going through my head, and there's so many different ways we can go in this conversation. And I guess, trying to think about wrapping this up, I feel like you've provided so much great advice, so much great insight. And I appreciate you really going through not only the power of video in general, but really the application of it. And so as we're wrapping up, if someone gave you the microphone and said, all right, Christie Freeze, just tell us what others need to hear, what the marketing and sales leaders in senior living, what they need to hear. It might be video, it might not be. I'm handing you the microphone. What's your message to the audience?
I'm going back to my favorite quote.
Started and end it with it, right?
Yeah, it's going to be that video creates psychological proximity in the absence of physical proximity.
Yeah.
So leveraging that to build trust and connection, I would argue that we owe it to people, and we we don't have to do anything. Like if you as a leader are pitching this idea and trying to get buy-in from your team and you're viewing it as a have to do, it's not that. You don't have to do anything. You can carry on sending plain text, black and white, faceless text on a screen and attempting to build relationships that way. Or you could try leveraging a modality that's proven time and time and time again to work and be successful. And it is going to shift the perception of senior living. Like, who doesn't want in on that?
For sure. And I feel like when it's all said and done, we want to tell that story at the community level. And then we want to make a connection at a human level. So telling the story at the community level and then connecting at the human level. Christy, thank you so much. Thank you for your energy. Yay. I'll say this to everybody. If you're looking for Christy and her team at any conference, look for the cool jackets. The best jackets in the place right there. So they're incredible. Everybody's jealous of those jackets. All right. Where can people find you to learn more about what you're doing, the other resources? You might have a podcast or two. Please tell me where to find all of that information.
Might have a podcast or two. Yes. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Christie Freeze. Would love to connect with anybody over there. I am also the host of the Senior Living Sizzle, which is expert-led discussions on the industry's hottest topics. We do those monthly. And then I also am the co-host of Good Day Senior Living with my good friend, Rachel Keller.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. We love her. So yeah, a ton of resources over at salesmail.com. We would love an opportunity to show you. So there's actually a link on our website that says, send me a sales mail. Act surprised when it's my sales mail that's delivered to you. But it does give you just kind of a walkthrough of the anatomy of a sales mail message and what it looks like for your recipient. So go ahead and check that out. And that's what I got.
Love it. Thank you so much. And thank you for, again, just sharing the power of video when it comes to all things senior living marketing and sales.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Christy. What an awesome conversation. Huge thanks to my friend Christy for not just sharing her energy, but real actionable insights that can help all of us become better connectors in the senior living space. As we wrap up, here are 3 takeaways that you can put into action right away. First, use personalized video early and often. Send a short video at the inquiry stage to introduce yourself and set the tone. It helps build trust before the first phone call is ever returned. Second, follow a simple 3-step video cadence. Use video in your inquiry response, pre-tour reminder, and post-tour follow-up, with that last one always personalized. This structure can dramatically reduce no-shows and improve your conversations. And third, progress over perfection. You don't need to be polished. You just need to be present. Be human, be helpful, and speak like you would in person. And that's what builds connections. Thank you again for joining us, Christy. Now let's all go make some meaningful connections.